Unless you've been living under a rock, you'll probably have heard of email marketing. It is one of the best forms of lead generation, converting potential students into actual members, or generating revenue as well. The problem is a lot of people find it very challenging to create emails, to write emails that are actually going to work. And it's a big problem because everybody knows they need to be doing this stuff to build relationship and also obviously convert people into like trials or customers or whatever. But how do you go about doing it? I thought I'd do a little ride along or write along, and I will write you an email live on camera and I'll talk a little bit about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. There might be a little bit of dead time because I am going to be writing and using my brain. But I thought it'd be a fun way to kind of like see how I go about creating these different emails and what I do to try and make sure that people are going to read them as well. So let's dive into what we're going to be talking about. So right now, I've pulled up this thing because I think it's a good place to start whenever you're writing an email. What is your goal? That is like the first thing that we have to do. What is the point of this email? And it can be a number of different things. Is it trying to build the relationship? Is it trying to get that person to become a trial? Are you trying to get a sale from somebody? What is the point of this email? Are you just there to try and entertain them and reach out to them and build that relationship? Whatever it is, you have to have a goal in mind when you're writing an email. For this one, it's going to be a t-shirt pre-sale. Okay, that's all we're doing. Right now, we're running a pre-sale in our academy. I do this pretty much every time that we do a new product. We run a pre-sale to generate income that allows us to use that income to pay for the production of the goods. We can buy more in, and essentially it's like a zero-sum game. So every t-shirt we sell after that is profit, 100% profit. Okay, it's a way that we don't have to tie up our income. All right, so we're doing a t-shirt pre-sale. There's a 10% discount. The subject of this email is hand fluffed by Tibetan monks. It's an idea I came up with in the shower. I'm not sure if you remember them, depends how old you are, but Marks and Spencer's always used to have these adverts where they'd show like food and there'd be this music on in the background and be talking about all kinds of different stuff. And I can't remember who it was, but some comedian basically came up with, they were talking about it was like hand fluffed by Tibetan monks. It's like as if that's going to make your mashed potato any better. But it's a way of like building a story, making people feel the product that they're trying to sell. So that's the subject. And I do this all the time. Like anytime I come up with an idea for an email, whether it's for my students or whether it's for, people that I'm talking to, instructors, whatever, I just write it down. I write it down, make a quick note, and then I can always come back to it later. The next thing that you have as well is the preview. Sometimes like the headline. So at the moment I have this hand fluff by Tibetan monks as my subject. That might change depending on how I go about writing the email. And then the other thing that we have under the email is a preview. That's like that little bit of text that you see under the subject. We might fill that out, we might not, depending on what we're trying to achieve here. So you can add in other useful information if you want. It's entirely up to you. We'll talk a little bit more about like headlines and subjects in a little bit, but I figured we'd just start writing and we can kind of go from there. So one of the best things that you can do is literally just to start writing as well. Don't worry about correcting your grammar. Don't worry about editing too much or anything like that. Just write. You're going to see that there'll be huge, like tons of mistakes. I'll probably go back and correct words because I'm a little bit like that, but just start writing out an email. And it's going to be pretty much what I said to you guys. Let me see. So I'm going to talk about this first sentence for a second, but do you remember those old Marks and Spencer's food adverts? That is like the hook of the email. This is what I want people to like glom onto. It's what's going to take them to the next step of the thing. So the answer is like yes or no. One of the other funny things is I really struggle to write live. I don't know why it is, but everything stops working for me and I can't type as quickly as I normally would. The other thing is my computer's got this little bit of a rocker at the moment, which is making it really challenging. can't spell narrator. So that is kind of like my opening section. Again, you can see there's probably some spelling mistakes in, there's definitely some grammar mistakes in there, but it's kind of setting the scene for the rest of the email. Okay, then from here I'm going to start talking about the hand fluffed by Tibetan monks. So I want to have the payoff for that in some way. So I can kind of weave this in a little bit. And you'll see how I'll connect this to the t-shirts in just a second. Okay, so that's pulling in the subject line, right? It's getting them to talk about, like, it's kind of getting them to see what I'm talking about or read what I'm talking about, and in like an entertaining way. Like all of the emails, your goal is to be infotaining. So we're trying to provide like information, but we're also trying to do it in an entertaining manner. No one wants to sit through a dull email or sit and read a dull email. They need to be entertained, right? And that's how you're going to get people to engage with what you're doing. Okay, it needs to be informative and educational, but it also should be entertaining. And if you look at the emails I write, even this video, what I'm trying to do is entertain you whilst writing at the same time. You'll also notice that I've done things like my sentences aren't very long. So this one's only like 8 words long. This one's a little bit longer, but I might cut it down when I come to edit it. I'm trying to keep it like relatively short, and every sentence is its own paragraph. The simple reason being is if you start to shrink stuff down, everybody's going to read this on their mobile, right? If you start to shrink this down, I can't actually shrink it down as much as I'd like, but you're going to notice that the words, it's going to get smaller and smaller. It's going to be much more challenging for them to read. So I don't want blocks of text. I actually want like white space around what I'm doing. So it becomes easier for the person to read, and that like readability is critical in what you're doing. The next thing you can do is like you can add in like a segue. So there's a couple of ways that I could do this. The one that I'm going to do is I'm just going to like use a so why am I talking about hand fluffed potatoes? Can't spell potatoes. My parents would be ashamed of me. Hand and I can't spell fluffed as well. Hand fluffed potatoes. Question mark. So you can see what I'm doing in this is like I'm now relating the part of the story into the sale of or like the emails, right? So I'm going to relate how, like, you know, these are not just any t-shirts. They are, you know, special t-shirts that have been hand fluffed by Tibetan monks. or not hand fluffed by Tibetan monks. They are yeah, and then I'm just relating it, like I said, I'm just relating these two subjects together, right? How can I create a segue between one to the next and then make it kind of vaguely entertaining? I think fluffed, hang on, there we go, fluffed here, in that sense, right? So then all I need to do now is kind of start bulking out the rest of the email. And you're going to be like, so I might use another carrier phrase. So this is like, so why am I talking about this? Is a nice segue, like it explains what's happening in the email, but we also have carrier phrases that we can use to like link to the next part of it. So we've been talking about how cool these are. I can elaborate on that more. But what I'm going to use is even better. So one of the things that you can do if you want to increase click-through rate is replicate the subject line. We don't necessarily know what the subject line is going to be in the link, right? That'll increase the volume of people that click through. It's just one of those weird things that people do. I might add something like t-shirts first, up near, like something like this to make it a little bit more relatable. T-shirts hand fluffed by Tibetan monks in there. And then that's basically the entire point of the email. I might add a PS to the end of it. So I might finish up with something like, if you just something really simple like that. This is something I've always used at the end, or started using quite a lot, taught soon, because it means that I'm going to be contacting them again in the future. So it's a really important thing to do. And then this is another fun thing that I do as well. So when I'm coming into the academy now, a lot of my students are on like my various different email lists and stuff, and I'm sending them to them all the time. So they'll often be like, "Hey, Tom, Hand Fluff Barlow, how you doing?" And they'll just be like a thing that happens in our academy. The PS that I'm going to add is highlight another benefit. So I want in all of this email stuff, I want to have one key thing that I'm talking about, right? So this is all about like how these are essentially really awesome t-shirts. I could go in deeper and elaborate on this. I might edit it a little bit more. But that's the whole point of it. And it's also highlighting that, they can get 10% off until Sunday. But then I might add in another point or, something else that might happen in the future in the PS, okay? Or I can link it to another email as we go forward. So like the PS might be, for me in this one, it's going to be, and I'll just copy this. Sometimes I might not even copy it, I'll just put like the square bracket things in there. And then, well, that's not how you spell forget. This was a rubbish code and I really shouldn't have chosen it. I did it by mistake. I just left it in one of the emails and it was a bit too late to change it. So what I've done here is I've added another point about, I might change this bit, like I almost forgot because it's, I almost forget, I forgot, let me change that. See, spelling and grammar is not my forte, despite writing millions of words. I might change that to something else. It could be like, in case you're wondering. So I might do something like, oh, and in case you're wondering, the t-shirts are available in both kids and adult sizes. So that like flows onto it. And you'll notice that this is like kind of how I speak. In case you're wondering, the kids and adults the t-shirts are available in both kids and adult sizes, all the way from XS to XL. And then that gives me an opportunity to add the link again below that, which is good because a lot of people will skim right to the bottom of an email to read it. And then it allows me to reinforce the 10% discount at the bottom. So as I was talking about with the subject line is one of the most important points of any email. It's what's going to get people to open that email and then start to read it as well. So it's really important you understand in your students and what you're writing what this is. So this is like an intrigue email, right? It's not really clear what this relates to in the rest of the thing, which is good, right? Intrigue's good. It means that people it gets in people's brains like, why is he talking about hand fluffed by Tibetan monks? What's hand fluffed by Tibetan monks? I've got to open this to read it. So that subject line is really important. This is a graphic that I got from someone called Derek Johansson when I was learning about how to write copy and how to write emails and stuff. And you have different types of marketing. I've talked about this in the past. You have very direct and very indirect marketing, and it comes down to like the different levels of awareness that, again, I've talked about before. So if someone's really aware, then what you can do is you can do like offers, direct offers. You can do promises, and scarcity are a great way to like knock them over that thing. So another email I'll write closer to the closeout of this on Sunday will be something along the lines of last chance to get 10% off our like t-shirts, something along those lines. So it's very direct. Everybody knows what's going on. And I might only send that to the people that have opened emails, right? I might not send it to everybody because they're the most aware of what's happening. Whereas if you've got someone who's like not aware, or like these other ones, you've got like, they're looking for solutions. So problem solution is another one. You got secret, so like a specific sequence of the solution if they're like kind of in this section where they're only aware of a problem. Proclamation, scarcity, quiz, and story. This is like a little bit of a story, so it's a very indirect form of advertising. So I would expect the result to be a little bit lower, like less than it would if it was like a direct offer to people who are really interested in what we're doing. But the idea is, I don't want to always be hard selling to my students. Like I said, I want to be entertaining them. I want to be keeping in touch with them. If everything I do is hard selling, that doesn't foster the relationship. They're going to get burnt out on the fact that all I'm doing is sending you stuff about offers and things like that. And some people will open it because they want to get a bargain, they want to get a deal, but a lot of people won't. So you need to mix in these other things with these kind of like little softs. So this is kind of like, he calls this a lead type, which is kind of that lead here. So this is kind of a, let me pop that back up again. This is, and move this across so you guys can see this together. This is it's like a story, and yeah, it's probably the closest one would probably be a story or like some kind of intrigue that I'm creating as well. And then you're talking about the process as we go down through this whole email. So that's it. That's how I write an email. This now I would run through, I use a program called Grammarly, which just helps me correct my grammar, and it helps me become a little bit more concise. There is a free version of that. The other one that you might want to use is something called Hemingway as well. Hemingway is a really great tool to use if you're starting out in email or any kind of copywriting, because it helps you simplify what you're doing. You don't want super complex language structure. You want it to be simple and very, very readable, because the way that people consume emails is they want it to be fast and easy to read. Like I said, let me see if I can pop this out 1 second. Yeah, if I pop it this way, you might be able to see. So for example, if I scrunch this all the way down, this is still probably wider than an email, right? If I remember, sorry, not an email, a phone. I think if I remember correctly, you had a 50 character width on a phone. It was what the maximum you're trying to get to. Okay, so here this looks okay, this looks okay, you know, but some of these are getting like longer sentences, so I might want to break them down. So here you can see that quite lots of sentences. When I add in that extra bit of white space, it starts to make it a little bit more readable. It's not necessarily all the time, but I tend to add in a lot of white space in my email because honestly, like I find that much easier to read. I've talked about being dyslexic quite a lot, but you know, like I am very dyslexic and I need readability. It's very important to me. You know, it helps me just go through things faster. You know, if I have walls of text, I literally can't read it, you know. And, you know, some people are going to complain that I'm using bad grammar or I'm, you know, paragraphs, like Chelsea do this all the time. She hates the way that I write. But the idea is like, does it work? Is it going to be readable for most people? Then yes, I'm good to go. So anyway, back to Hemingway. So what we're trying to aim with a Hemingway app is, I'll show it to you because you can see. Hemingway is a free tool that you can do, and it will show you this kind of stuff. So you can see my grade is a grade 5. That means that, I think grade, I'm not sure 100% sure what grade this is, but like, you know, someone who's 7 or 8 could read this and understand what I'm talking about. It also gives this idea of any sentences are really hard to read, very hard to read, some which are hard to read, and it gives you an idea about like weak words, right? Ethically sourced is coming up as a weak word. Personally, that's not a weak word in this situation. And it'll give you some of my targets as well, right? So 6 or fewer. I've got, what, 2, 3? Just could be considered a weak word, but it's actually within the structure of this sentence, right? So it makes more sense. This isn't me talking. This is Marks and Spencer's who are talking. So that's a really great thing to do. The other thing that I would highly recommend that you do, read your emails or any of your copy back, because that will help you pick up on any points that you need to tighten up. Okay, so again, I'm rubbish at reading out loud. So what I'll do is I will use the speech app and I'll start speaking this and I'll listen to it and I'll start to pick it up and see how the sentence flow is, whether I need to chop and change stuff, and you're good to go. So the whole process through editing and like writing the email, uploading it, all of that kind of stuff, it might take, 30 minutes. But it's great. Like, this can go out to everybody in my academy. I'll probably pick up some sales off it. I will, I'll build the relationship because, it's not intrusive either. Like, this email in no way is like a hard selling email. And I'll probably get some people who come in later tonight and be like, oh yeah, I saw your email about, I remember those adverts. My favorite was about the beef bourguignon or something ridiculous along those lines. But it develops the relationship as well, and that's kind of what we're going for with any of this email marketing stuff, or any of your marketing, any of your copywriting, is developing the relationship and I like to use like a lot of soft selling rather than very hard selling, because I find that a lot of people are put off by hard selling. You end up coming across like a used car salesman. I prefer to use a lot of soft selling stuff and wrap it within stories, wrap it within, educational stuff. Okay, so hopefully you found that interesting and not too boring while I was writing. Like I said, I will re-edit this and then I'll upload it. I'll probably send it tomorrow morning. And then I'll have another one that will go out on Sunday to remind people this is the last day, which will be a lot more direct and just be like, I often use like last chance as a thing, or last chance to get 10% down. It's kind of don't miss out, something along those lines. Very direct email. But, these other ones are a lot less direct. Okay, a lot more info, a lot more entertaining. That's the way that we write emails. Okay, so again, if you've found this useful, let me know. If you didn't find this useful, let me know. If you just want to reach out and tell me your favorite type of Marks and Spencer food, reach out and say hello. Other than that, have an amazing day and I will see you soon.